Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 6 of my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 flight training series. Last time we finished up the very quick airliner training, so today we're moving on to Bush Pilot. And Bush Pilot starts with short field takeoff. So let's look at what we have to do for that. Oh, it's very quick, only 2 minutes. And we are literally just going to take off and end the lesson, so let's go ahead. Never actually flown this plane, so that'll be fun and interesting to try out.
Now it's time for something more wild and challenging than just a run-of-the-mill takeoff. Not all runways are long, flat, and clear of debris. Let's try taking to the sky from a more rugged surface. Keep holding the brakes. It's a little more difficult to keep straight during the takeoff roll on a loose surface such as gravel, as you lose some steering control. This runway is shorter than one you'd find at a larger airport, so we need to modify the takeoff technique to get off the ground and climb as quickly as possible. With the brakes applied, go ahead and increase power to full throttle.
So I do that.
First, apply the brakes and hold them so that we don't roll forward until we're ready to go.
Can't quite do it at the same time since my brakes are set for hand controls. Is that not full throttle? There we go. Kinda got it.
Excellent.
There we go, release brakes.
Are all in the green. Now release the brakes and we'll get going. Rotate at
Use the
45
rudder to stay
knots.
straight and rotate.
Now smoothly raise the nose to 15 degrees.
And set the landing gear. And there we are at 15.
Now that we're safely off the ground, go ahead and retract the landing gear.
Too late.
Maintain
Already did that.
15 degrees nose up attitude to hold a climbing airspeed of 60 knots.
Okay, well, we're a bit over 60, so I'll just climb a bit short, bit steeper, I should say.
Now retract the flaps to improve our climb rate.
Retracting the flaps.
Great. Now keep on climbing straight ahead.
Try to maintain around 60.
Great. That's the
There's-
short
there's
field takeoff
1,000.
in a nutshell.
Alright, not too bad to start off. See what we have to do next. Okay, just a short field landing, so I imagine it'll be pretty similar. 55 knots, so pretty slow. Reduced power and max braking when we hit the ground. Let's go ahead.
Now that you've taken off from a gravel runway, let's try landing on one. For this short field landing, the terrain dictates that we need to approach at an angle. Start by deploying the landing gear and get ready for our approach.
Alright, let's put the landing gear down. Bring the throttle back just so we can maintain around 65 to 60 knots for now.
Short runways require an early touchdown and full flaps to minimize our rollout so we don't run out of runway.
Start setting the flaps.
Next, fully extend the flaps.
Alright,
Great. Aim for an approach speed of 55 knots.
okay, we'll get down to 55. There we are. Give it some more throttle so we don't
Aim close to the beginning
go
of the
too
runway
low for
so
now.
we have the longest roll possible, but be careful not to undershoot it. Cut the power just before touching down for a nice, smooth landing. Once we touch
Maintaining
down,
55
apply the
pretty
brakes
well.
for a smooth landing that brings us to a stop as quickly as possible.
It's a bit hard to see the threshold over top of the dash, but that's okay. I could use the button that raises your view a little bit, but we'll make it work here just like this. It's easier just to pay attention to flying. Let's cut the throttle a bit early so because we're going a little fast now. Bring it down right here. Do a bit of a flare. Alright, maybe not. Not at this speed. There we go. Not touching down as early as I would like to, but we should have plenty of room to stop. Need to focus more on getting it down sooner than the smoothness of the landing.
It's more challenging than at a larger airport, but being able to land on short and unimproved runways like this one opens up more possibilities for your adventures.
Still an A. I'm surprised it didn't restrict me to landing a bit earlier for the A, but that's okay. That's good. Alright, next we're already on to updrafts. Learn to soar along a ridge line. Alright, let's go ahead. Some beautiful mountains here, although the resolution could be a little better.
And requires its own set of specialized skills. Mountainous terrain, especially at high altitude, often creates dangerous turbulence, even when conditions appear dead calm. Fly on the right-hand side of the valley ahead, maintaining 2,000 feet altitude and 100 knots airspeed. Air flows over mountains like water does over rocks, conforming to the topography both on the upside and the downside. Air forced up the side of a mountain by wind creates updrafts, often unpredictable ones. Let's ride this wave of rising air and soar along these ridges like eagles. With the wind out of our left-hand side, fly just above the right side edge of the valley to ride the updraft.
Alright, we'll just maintain this for now. Bring the throttle down a little bit as we're climbing in speed a bit. Okay, not that much. Alright, we're on 2,100 knots, so let's enter the updraft. I guess not quite yet. We won't feel it.
Now that we're flying alongside the valley wall, you'll start to feel the aircraft want to gain altitude. Maintaining
There he goes.
altitude needs a slightly lower pitch attitude than usual. We're now ridge soaring like an eagle. Turbulence often comes with updrafts, so prepare for the going to get a little rough. Try
Definitely
to
already
stay in
is.
the rising air to get a good feel for it.
Yeah, mostly all the same, except a lot more turbulence, obviously. It's not like a glider where it's, mandatory to keep our altitude up. We need the updrafts. Let's bring the throttle down a little bit here. Since it's raising us up and we're pitching down, we're accelerating. Wow, yeah, that's really rough there. Imagine it'll die down a bit when we pass over this valley. Just trying to maintain 2,000.
As we reach the gap in the mountain wall on our right side, the updraft will level off and then ramp up again when we reach the other side of the gap.
We'll just cross over here. It definitely has died down a little bit. Still turbulent though. This plane's so light, it also just seems to be turbulent no matter what I do. Alright, we're at the next waypoint, and I imagine the updrafts are going to start about now. We're alongside the mountain again.
I think a bit more practice may be a good idea.
It's okay, it's just since we didn't maintain 2,000 perfectly the whole way, but that's okay. We're done the lesson, so let's move on. Alright, we're now on to downdrafts, so I imagine it's going to be pretty similar, except obviously just we're going to fly along the left side and experience it downwards. I imagine this is obviously more dangerous as we're being pushed down, so we'll keep the throttle up so we can fight against it.
Help with lift as you soar along a ridge. Aim for 2,000 feet, this time keeping over to the left side of the valley, putting us on the downwind side of the mountains. The opposite of an updraft is a downdraft, where air spills over a mountain or ridge and descends down this backside slope. Keep over to the left side and you'll feel how you need to fight to maintain altitude.
Keeping our airspeed a little over 100 for now, so I imagine it's about to start where we're fighting to stay at 2,000. It's definitely getting turbulent, but I'm not noticing us going down quite yet.
You'll find it difficult to maintain altitude in a downdraft, so keep a high power setting and watch the altimeter and be ready to work the controls, especially the elevator.
If there we go, we're definitely feeling it now.
Gentle turn to the right towards the middle of the valley. This will take you out of the downdraft.
Descending a little bit, so it's climbed it back to 2000. Give it some more power to fight it. It's nice being in an aircraft that's not as underpowered like the Cessna. I actually can give it full throttle and it does something meaningful. We're maintaining pretty well right now. Ironically better than the downdrafts, even though it should be easier. Sorry, the downdraft should be easier. Let's hit that waypoint.
Well done, but there's room for improvement. Now that you've experienced a downdraft,
Definitely maintained it
you'll know
a
how
lot
to
closer this time.
react
She still said that, so
while flying in the mountains.
shows how precise they want it.
You'll encounter them on the downwind side of terrain, where winds blow at speeds of 10 knots and faster.
Alright, are we done there? Or there we go. At least, yeah, a little bit better. Let's move on. I hope we can do some water landings with this plane. I imagine they'll let us. Well, there we go. I should have just read ahead. Let's do a water takeoff, which looks about the same, except we're climbing at 60 knots. Not sure if we're still rotating at 45 or if it's at 60, but I'm sure we'll find out right away.
The Icon A5 isn't limited to hard surfaces. We can experience the glorious Alaskan landscape all the more with our water-going capabilities. To get
Not sure if
started,
we're supposed to be
let's look
moving
at
already.
basic water takeoff. It's much more difficult to
Can't really control it though.
accelerate when in water,
We're
so
all the
you
way
want to
throttled
get
down.
as much lift as possible as quickly as you can. To reduce our takeoff run, we'll use full flaps. Set the flaps to their fully extended position.
Alright, let's do that. The flaps are full.
Alright, we have the water rudder retracted and the gear is up. Now
That
give
looks
it
like we're
full
ready to go.
throttle to get us moving. Use the rudder to aim for the gap between the island up ahead
Whoa.
and the shoreline.
Skipped a bit on the water there. Now we're at 50 knots,
Use the nose just
so
a
let's
little at 50 knots to get airborne.
send. There we go. We'll do 15 degrees again.
That's it. Now reduce the flaps to 15 degrees.
You're reducing the flaps.
Now we can retract the flaps completely.
And retracting them fully.
Good. Keep us climbing straight ahead, aiming for about 60 knots to get the best climb rate.
We're definitely going over that, so let me just bring it down a little bit.
Keep full power set.
Oh, never mind. We will just climb steeper to go down to 60 knots. Thought they wanted us to keep 15 degrees, but we'll do 60 knots. So we can go even more.
I think a bit more practice may be a good idea.
That's okay. Alright, these are really quick. What do we have next? Water landing. Alright, let's go ahead. Full flaps, and then we'll retract them once we are landed. Not sure if we actually have to put our water rudder down, since we're not using gear, but I guess we'll see. Let's go ahead. I'll bring the throttles down to about
Bush flying
70%.
brings a number of great do anything, go anywhere possibilities. We're going to land on the lake up ahead, so let's start getting ready. Bring the throttle all the way back to idle.
Alright, let's do that.
Let the speed drop below 75 knots, right where the white band on the airspeed indicator begins.
What Just try to keep the right glide slope here. There's 75.
Great. Now extend the first stage of flaps. Flaps 15 degrees. Keep the speed below 75 knots.
Just throttle up a little bit here.
Extend the flaps to 30 degrees.
Okay, flaps are going out. And we're below the 75 knots.
Great. Now keep the power low and aim for 50 to 60 knots. A little
Let's bring it down even
movement in the
more.
water is helpful, as super calm conditions make it harder to judge our height. Now we simply come in a lot like a runway landing, keeping our speed nice and low and touching down with minimum descent rate. Aim for a nice smooth touchdown in the center of the lake.
Or at least we're more focused on feet per minute here and not where we're landing. Keeping the speed about 55. We have a little throttle in, but not much. I'm going to go idle now that we have to descend. We're close to 60, so I'm just going to keep it pitched where we're not going to go over 60 knots. Let's line up a little better. Alright, we're coming down. We'll just float a little bit to drop some airspeed and then flare slightly. We'll make it nice and smooth. Alright, there we go. Let's increase our flaps.
The aircraft will slow hydrodynamically. Fully retract the flaps to reduce our lift, helping us to slow down more quickly.
They're reduced, so now we're just waiting for it to slow down. Use some rudder so we don't go too close to the edge over there.
Fantastic. Water landings open up a ton of new possibilities. Next, we'll put all the
That wasn't too bad.
test with the bush flying challenge.
Looks like we're onto our solo already. Lots of good information and short, quick lessons in the bush pilot section. So it looks like we're just flying through the mountains and doing a water landing with a water takeoff as well. So we're going to have to watch for downdrafts and updrafts. Alright, let's go ahead. Throttles are at idle.
Now
Set our flaps to full.
Let's put your bush flying skills to the test. We're going to take
And we'll just throttle up right away.
Mountains to Dogfish Bay. Get set up for a water takeoff. Great. Now get us airborne.
Okay, at 55 knots, I'll rotate. And I'll press gear up just to make sure the water rudder doesn't have to be manually retracted.
Now bring in the flaps and keep us climbing to an altitude of 1,500 feet.
Okay, flaps 1 have been retracted, and now full flaps. And we'll keep it around 60 knots while we climb. Until we reach 1,500. So we're just about reaching 1,000 here. Still full power. There's 1,000. So make sure we don't have to start flying to the right as well here. No, not quite. So they give us some time to climb first, which is good. We're going a bit fast, so let's pitch up. And here's 1,500. And we'll level off here. And I'll throttle down slightly so we don't go over speed. Try to get it up to 100 knots first. I'll bring it back now. Just try to keep it around 105 to 110.
Turn to the right here and maneuver through the valley. The wind
We're definitely
is now
getting more
coming from our
turbulent.
left, so decide which side of the valley to fly over to avoid downdrafts.
So we're going to stick to the right side as it's coming from the left. So we'll get some updrafts here. I'm going to throttle down slightly since we are at 110 and it's only going to make us faster. Trying to fight the updrafts. So you can see we're pitched down pretty far even though we're flying level. So we're just maintaining 1500. That's what I'm mostly focused on.
The updraft side of the valley, allowing you to soar along the ridge.
So it's not too bad, not too turbulent here. We're going a little bit low, so let's just stop fighting them as much and let them take us up. You can give it more power as well, just to help. And we'll try to fly through the middle at this section. So we have a little bit less to fight. Alright, we're still at 1500, just about. Lots of little corrections because of the turbulence.
When bush flying, it is always wise to do a flyover of the landing site first to check the conditions of the strip. Start a gradual descent, and we'll fly past the runway to take a look.
Right, let's slowly descend here. I'm going to bring the throttle back to about half. Maybe even more since we're almost at 120 knots now. And we'll do an outside view here to easily see the whole lake. That's the whole landing area anyway. This looks clear. Nobody fishing.
Runway looks good to me.
Oh, it's a physical landing. I see. I thought we were landing in the bay.
And descend to under 1,000 feet to prepare for approach.
Right. Let's reduce the throttle to idle until we get to 75. But I'm also going to start descending, which will increase our speed as well. And I'll start the slow turn here. And we'll bring in the first degree of flaps.
Take the first stage of flaps. Flaps
There we go.
15 degrees. This
Give it a little bit of throttle here to maintain our speed.
Runway. Lower the landing gear.
Put the landing gear down.
Extend the landing gear.
Less throttle. I'm going to put in the second level of flaps here.
Take full flaps and perform
There we
a
go.
short field landing.
And we're just going to leave the power very low. We want to be 50 to 60 for the approach. We're almost in that range. We're basically at idle here. Level off for now so we don't go down too far. And there's our 55, so give it some power. And we'll give it a little bit more. We're coming in pretty low, but we'll have a nice short stop this way. We're just about there. So now I'm going to cut the power to idle. And we'll bleed off some more speed. And there's touching a little earlier than expected, so I didn't flare quite as good as I should have, but it's okay. And we'll do full braking. Definitely a bumpy runway.
Well done.
There we
Now
go.
you can proceed with confidence in your new abilities. With these newly acquired
That went quite
skills,
well.
you can
I think anyway,
explore
so let's
some
see
of
the
globe's
score.
most remote, little-seen corners.
There we go. And hey, that's good. Final lesson. It's nice to have that. I believe that is the final lesson. I'm just going to triple check. There we go. That's also a pretty quick episode. I thought it would be long with how many lessons there were, but they were all generally quite quick. So, next episode we'll be covering IFR navigation, which will happen to be our last episode. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you then.